Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are joining us, and welcome to the Grant Collective Live. My name is Ansley Fender, and I am the founder and CEO of Grantcycle. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with someone I deeply admire, both personally and professionally. Tammy Westergard is the former Nevada State Librarian and the current Project SANDI Coordinator for the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development. Tammy, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Oh my gosh, it's super fun to be here. Thank you, Ansley.
You know, I'm a huge fan of Project Sandy, like ever since we first talked about it. So I want to give everyone a quick overview of the program before we dive in. So Project
Okay.
Sandy is a grant-funded workforce development program run through the public library system throughout the state of Nevada. Because Nevada's economy is heavily reliant on things like gambling and hospitality, COVID hit workers really hard because obviously all of those places were closed. So Project Sandy was created to upskill and reskill unemployed and underemployed Nevadans into high-paying STEM careers in industries that the state identified as up and coming, such as major manufacturing, math for technology, and related fields. But this program did something that I think is truly unique and that I love. It uses virtual reality simulations that you all call field trips. So people can actually try on a career, like literally put a headset on and try on a career in VR. And once they choose one of the five careers that Project Sandy covers, then you all use an intervention called individual career mapping to create the training program for them. And then the VR headset actually becomes the textbook, which solves the problem presented by a very rural state like Nevada, where the closest college or university campus could be 2 hours. Okay, that was a lot. I know this is your brainchild. So, how did this even come to you as something to do?
Well, thank you. It certainly wasn't completely my brainchild. There were a team of people who were trying to figure out how to deploy distance education in a more impactful way. And certainly, the world that we live in with automation, the pace of technology change, the world of work in the age of smart machines. Actually, Human Work in the Age of Smart Machines is one of my favorite books written by Jamie Marasotis, who is the founder of the Lumina Foundation. And what he talks about in that book is really the essence of what Project Sandy has been working on in terms of helping to upskill and reskill individuals and help them get industry recognized credentials that are attainable in weeks, not years. So, certainly, this big idea when COVID hit had been in the making to some extent as we were piloting an initial project to help people become dialysis technicians in the state of Nevada. As you mentioned, we're the sixth largest state geographically, and our population centers from top to bottom, that can be about a 9 hour drive from Las Vegas all the way to the Nevada Oregon border. And there's only one training provider for dialysis technicians in the whole state at the College of Southern Nevada. So we began to work on this idea about deploying virtual reality resources, literally a textbook that you wear on your head that has a second teacher inside the environment through virtual reality. And we were successful in supporting the College of Southern Nevada, their first ever distance learning offering for dialysis technicians across the state. And sure enough, somebody 9 hours away in McDermott, Nevada, completed the program with the help of those virtual resources. So that did form the basis of answering the US Department of Education's Career and Technical Education Office notice of funding. They wanted a novel solution. They wanted technology to be leveraged, and it had to lead to industry recognized credentials because it's in the midst of the impacts of COVID, and people needed to be upskilled from hospitality and other entertainment sectors immediately. So we took the seeds of what we had already been working on when I was at the state library and escalated it across Nevada's five priority sectors, which includes healthcare, advanced manufacturing, IT, logistics, and skilled trades. And every one of those big industrial sectors are in demand in every state in this country. Everything about this is helping individuals literally see into the world of work using virtual reality, going into field trips across those big five industrial sectors, and getting a sense of what the world of work looks like and to decide for yourself if you're interested in that kind of world of work. And does that world of work actually, is it a good fit with what some of your values are? Do you understand what problems of the world that these different occupations are working to solve? What kind of technology is on the horizon? So,
Yeah.
all of those types of things are really communicated through those field trips. And then, once people have an understanding of that, we have a way of helping match them into the relevant training programs. And then you really are on your way on a career path in weeks, not years. And then the jobs are in demand, they're already here. And so employers are very happy to find a talent pipeline. And it really does change the dynamics for the individual because you're interviewing an employer as much as they're interviewing you. And that's the way that it should be when you're making an important decision about where to go to work.
Absolutely. I think what's really brilliant about this approach too is it leverages state initiatives, local initiatives, what Nevadans care about from a personal level, from a professional level, and sort of deals with the whole person. You're not just a number, you're not cattle that we're feeding into the industrial complex. You're a human who has likes and dislikes and skills and things that can be further skilled. And we want to work with you so we can also satisfy these major manufacturers that we want to move in here. It's so brilliant. I mean, California is huge, so much going on there, but very interesting tax system that a lot of companies don't want to live under. So move across the border. Here is a ready workforce, and they want to make more than $15 an hour flipping burgers. Here's a $35 an hour career that you can step into and then continue upskilling into management and other things. So, like I said, I'm a huge fan of this program. I know that this is not the first time that Nevada has done an intervention like this. They've done workforce development interventions before. So I would love to chat a little bit about, there was this sort of A/B test going on with the individual career map, which is the part of Project Sandy you were dealing with,
Right.
and another intervention that was going on in the colleges and universities. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So when we were awarded, it was a $13.8 million grant from the US Department of Education. And the elements that I was in charge of helping to constellate, they created all of these technology assets. They created a toolbox, and those included the virtual reality tools. We have 1,018 virtual reality headsets that are distributed across the state. That's, to my knowledge, the largest deployment in a public environment of virtual reality headsets in the country. But that said, the process was for us to be able to create the toolbox to put enhancements onto a career information database, to define what field trips needed to be created, to define through a very sophisticated process where it's knowledge transfer from guarantors who are experts in the field. They're experts with the equipment that's used, say, for example, in a dialysis clinic. So there's nothing about this stuff that's off the shelf. And I think that that's really important to understand because the virtual world, it's complicated, just like the physical world, right? So as we created all of these tools, we also created a process that goes with the tools. And the process is known as individual career mapping. And what that means is as people come to the library with an information seeking need, and librarians with our own skill sets, as well as with the collections that we have curated around us in our spaces, both physically and online, all that stuff is designed to meet the patron where they are in their need to know. And what happens is when you get information back to help satisfy an information seeking need, it leads you to asking another question, a better question. Every time you get to a point in that journey where you're asking another question, what you've done is constellate one leg on your own individual career map. So, this whole process of individual career mapping aims at providing people library resources so that they can understand the world of work, through virtual reality, through various assessments. There's lots of ways that we understand the world of work, and then ask better questions about what key skills and abilities are required in order for us to take our place within an occupational area that we care about.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to juxtapose this with the really common interventions we see, like free tuition. You told me this brilliant story one time of someone who actually went through the individual career mapping program, but they were in a university setting doing dialysis tech and realized partway through that program, they faint at the sight of blood. I don't know why you would go into that if you didn't like blood, but it's entirely possible A, you didn't know that it made you queasy, or B, like you just said, there's not enough labor market literacy to fully grasp what that job entails. There's lots of
Yes.
things that's done with that blood during that time. You might conceivably think the machine's doing all this stuff. I don't need to interact with the blood. You will be interacting with blood. But the
Well,
nice thing about the virtual reality headsets is blood's there on day one. You know
yes.
very quickly if this is the thing for you. If you want to be a machinist, but the noise bothers you, that's something you may not know until a few weeks into a program because you're sitting in a classroom. I have a degree and a half and I don't do anything related to it. I don't like the career. I didn't know that going through it. I liked learning, but I didn't like actually putting it into practice. So, what's so brilliant about the virtual reality environment is that you are in it. You are completely immersed in this experience. So, you really get the feeling of what it's like. So, these shorter interventions, like free tuition, they solve a problem, but in sort of a this is cattle that we need to move through a situation. It's not specific to the person. There's no one saying, hey, I don't think this career is for you. You might say that's the job of career counselors at universities, but they don't know you at that level. You know you at that level.
Ex-
So empowering you to make those decisions is super, super important. I want to completely shift focus to measuring the impact of this stuff. So managing across all of these different layers, especially when you're having to compare your program to a free college tuition program that the state is funding, so now has a vested interest in being like, well, this is the way we've always done it. So you've got federal stakeholders, you've got state stakeholders, you have university stakeholders, you have librarians, and all of these different people that you have to explain this information to.
It
What
is.
went
Yeah.
into that? What were you needing to collect? And what were the problems and the ways that you solved those problems?
It was really connecting with you, Ansley, and Grantcycle that allowed us to drill down and identify what library resources an individual used as they constellated the different legs on their individual career map. And what Grantcycle did was through a very sophisticated formula was able to identify sort of the cost of the user going through and creating their individual career map and how much it costs to get them from one benchmark to the next benchmark. And so what Grantcycle did as we identified the items in the collection that the patrons were using is through a survey process, we were able to track what that patron would use in their repeated visits to the library as they used library resources all on their own. We were able to track what did you use, how many times did you use it, and then look back at the data and see, oh, it took X amount of time for this individual to get to a basic understanding of their labor market literacy. And then as it graduated through the four phases, then we could really see how the different library resources were used across different demographic types, what was really hot in some instances and what wasn't. So that data and all those feedback loops really communicated the value proposition of having libraries as a part of this whole process. So we're seeing an ability for us to have visibility into the precise tools that are being used. So then we don't spend time on things that aren't as popular or are not as impactful in helping people improve their labor market literacy. The surveys that you helped us create, I mean, they were critical to the success of this. And then libraries were the cheapest state in town. So the value is amazing when it's costing like 54 cents for one person to go from one phase to the next. That's pretty impactful.
Absolutely. So there's the efficiency side metrics and then there's the effectiveness side metrics. So you can really clearly see these are the interventions that work. Get rid of the ones that don't. I mean, that's a bit reductionist, but that's
Yeah.
what you can do. But also looking at what is the cost of this. So I remember a few months ago when we were looking at presenting this to get you guys additional funding, we were looking at, if you look at the sunk costs for the free tuition and the individual career mapping, and you look at the cost of the people involved for the first 100 people, the free tuition is considerably cheaper. After the first
Yeah.
100, it shifts dramatically. So the unit cost of serving a person through individual career mapping is like $550. To do that at free tuition at the cost of Nevada tuition is about $6,000. That
Right.
is massive. Like that is a like 10 times cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's significantly more effective because you don't have these rates of dropout or yeah, I graduated but then I changed careers or all of these other things that typically are not actually measured when free tuition is the intervention. The importance of data in this I don't think can be stated enough because these huge programs are so important to solve these massive issues. The United States is falling behind in key areas, but we also have unique ability to just pass every other country in a lot of these areas if we can just get everyone rowing in the same direction. So with being able to provide this data and being able to look at it and present it to the Nevada state government, to the federal government, you guys are not only going to get additional funding from the state, but this is potentially spreading to other states across the country. You all are working on a grant proposal for multiple states to be doing this. This could be the way that
That is true.
workforces are developed into the future. So if you could talk about that a little bit in the last couple of minutes that we have, that'd be great.
Y- Yeah, thank you. And that is really true because at the end of the day, when we think about the entry point for all Americans to access information, freely access quality information so that they can make their own decisions, the public library is the foundation of our democracy in that sense. We meet people where they are in their need to know. We're not teachers. We're just providing the information so that people can make their own decisions. And then if they have questions, we're certainly there and able to help answer questions and so forth. But the thing is, Ansley, is we know there's dignity in work. And when people feel called to helping solve a problem through the dignity of work in a career path, it changes everything. It changes the tone of communities. It changes the economy of communities. When we're able to help fill the talent pipelines in the resilient sectors that exist within our states and within our economic regions, then everybody wins. We're building a stronger America. We're building stronger communities through the process of work and through the process of everybody getting equal access to a path and to understanding that world of work. And I don't think that there's anything more important that libraries could be doing. And that is a sentiment that's shared by many librarians across the country, which is why we're involved in scaling this in the West with an application into the IMLS that we have right now. We're waiting to find out whether we're invited back to write our full proposal.
Thank you so much for talking with me. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this program. Having been in a position where I just didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, this would have been fantastic. Also, who doesn't want to wear a VR headset? Like that gets kids in the door who are in high school and don't know what they want to do. I would go to a library just to try it out. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys are successful with this upcoming grant proposal.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for everything you've done to help us to get us to where we are. Because being able to display that dashboard was a game changer.
Absolutely. So glad I could help. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning
Take
in with
care.
us today. We'll see you next time.